I propose this evening to speak as usual on two areas, the constituency issues and then a few national issues. And of course then have you give me your suggestions and critique on any matters. At the constituency level, there are some good things happening, some good things proposed, and of course some challenges that we continue to face. Let me start perhaps with the good things as we reflect on the work taking place in the constituency. St. James South, like all other parts of the island, continue to have their challenges with infrastructural works, housing issues, unemployment, and the various social issues that confront the society. However, here in this constituency, we are about to start work on the construction of 72 houses, which will form an extension of West Terrace Gardens into Durant's Village area. For those who reside in West Terrace Gardens, particularly on 16th Avenue, you will have noted that the excavators and earth moving equipment will have started working last week, clearing the area of the bush, trees, and other debris around there. Hello. Is it working? Welcome, Patsy. Yes, in West Terrace Gardens, the back of 16th Avenue, the lands there is being subdivided into 72 lots. It will form an extension of West Terrace Gardens. It will be the area below Upstairs Crescent. And there will be an additional road placed in the area so that residents in the West Terrace Gardens will now have access to their houses from Durant's Village. And National Housing Corporation and ADC builders are working on that project together. Like I said, the earth moving equipment started work last week. We will have a formal start of this project. I expect that road works, but that should commence sometime over the next 3 weeks or so, as the surveyors complete their pegging and such like. I've already spoken and met with the residents in Upstairs Crescent who would have raised some concerns about the development. And I've spoken to some of the residents in West Terrace Gardens. I propose to have a meeting with those who are closest to the development so that we are very much aware of what is going to be taking place in that area. In the next couple of days, I'll be aware of the final pricing on the houses and lands, but it's basically designed to be a middle-income residential subdivision since it will be an extension of West Terrace Gardens. I look forward sometime over the next year to 18 months to welcoming 72 additional families to St. James South in the West Terrace Gardens area. Just a little bit northeast of that, the government also owns the land that separates Upstairs Crescent from Haynesville. And there are currently plans afoot to do that subdivision either into lots with individual houses or to have high-rise, low-income development take place on it, pretty much as an extension in the Haynesville area. Either way, whatever transpires, we will have in St. James South, particularly between the West Terrace, Oxnard, Haynesville area, almost another 150 housing solutions being provided for lower income and middle income Barbadians. And when we add to that, lots that are being provided here in Wanstead, West Terrace area by the NCF, as well as in Tills and Wanstead, we're approaching about 175 housing solutions being provided in this constituency, most of it, of course, in middle income areas. For those of you who reside in the Haynesville area, remember back in 2008, the government took the decision that if you live in the National Housing Unit for 20 years or more, we would transfer the title to those units to those individuals. There are I believe almost 300 families in Haynesville that will benefit from that. Most of them have already stopped paying rent since 2008. About 10% have actually received title deeds to the property. We recognize, of course, when the Chief Planner's Office was doing the work, that there were illegal additions to some of these structures, and that hence prohibited the Country Planning Department from issuing certificates of compliance so that the title deeds could be effectively transferred to the former tenants. That is being worked on now. The Chief Parliamentary Counsel's Office in the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Attorney General's Office are preparing the necessary legislation to give us the authority to transfer those good and clear titles to individuals. So we will see in the Haynesville area, sometime over the next couple of months, over 200 families that will have titles to their units and hence full ownership of their units, which to me really means that they can then take the units and offer security, acquire additional funding, but better yet, they have a sense of ownership and the days of renting are over. It also means that the National Housing Corporation will now be relieved of that burden of maintaining these units. But the truth of the matter is that the cost of maintaining these units invariably exceeded the rental income to National Housing. I think it's indeed the right thing that we've done in transferring over 2,000 units in Barbados to lower income Barbadians. The other physical development work that we'll be doing is the Husband Gardens, the canteen structure that is there right now, rather unsightly, but certainly fulfilling a need in the community. That will be replaced commencing this year by a new structure that would provide, if I can just show some of you it. This is the new structure that replaced the canteen in the Husband Gardens. It will provide a courtyard, a kitchen, a storage facility, a deli facility, dry goods, a shop market facility, as well as booths for about six entrepreneurs, so that residents in this community can now have another outlet for their entrepreneurial activities in that Husband Gardens area, and replacing the unsightly canteen facility that is currently there. We are currently talking with private sector individuals to provide the financing and construct that facility for us quickly. In terms of road works, I've had meetings and discussions with the Minister of Public Works recently, and I'm happy to report that the Haynesville Road is a priority area for MTW, but that will be done this year, along with roads in Husband Heights to be completed. Others of concern, of course, relates to Husbands, the original Husbands, and a few other areas in this constituency. The areas now that remain of concern to us, as we note around here, there is some measure of concern about crime in the community. And we always know that in challenging economic times, and certainly for us in this particular constituency at the University of West Indies, we opened their doors again to the start of our academic year. There are those individuals who like to prey upon the unsuspecting residents in this community. We've had some concerns in the Husband Heights area in particular, and Wanstead, in terms of burglaries and attacks on the individuals. I've spoken to the Royal Barbados Police Force on this matter, and I'm happy to note the increase in police patrol in these communities. And empathize with those who have been victims of crime and burglary in this constituency. I think everyone has the right to walk the road without being molested. Everyone has the right to lie in their bed at night and not have fear of someone breaking into their homes. Those of you who go to work have a right to come home and find your home just as you left tomorrow mornings. And therefore, from my end, it must be zero tolerance in terms of crime and violence in this society, generally speaking, and the St. James South in particular. The police have certainly stepped up their presence, and we will be working together with them and residents to see what more we can do to minimize the risks of individuals being affected by crime and violence in the area. After a couple of weeks of rainfall is noted the increase in unkept lots or bush around the communities. We have been able to get some residents, some of our landowners, to clean their lots. Others, the Ministry of Health and others are working to reduce as well. And we expect that this will be expanded and quickly addressed as the Ministry of Health, the bush and program starts in a few weeks' time. In respect of some national issues, as the chairman indicated, the Democratic Party will just come out of the annual conference. I did not attend the annual conference. I was away in Beijing, China on government business. But I want to thank all of you who supported me in your absence and ensure that I attain one of the posts of Vice President in the party once again for this current year. There is undoubtedly a lot of work that the Democratic Party has to do. As a government, I believe once again that we have continued to manage this economy and this society in a manner that we don't benefit the majority of people in this society. These are indeed continuing to be challenging economic times. Barbados does not live in a vacuum. We certainly recognize the challenges that confront most of the economies of our trading partners, especially, for example, the UK. Only last night I was reading a report out in the UK in respect to the state of their National Health Service. The waiting time for diagnostic services in the UK health system far exceeds that in Barbados. The challenges that the British government is having in terms of funding the national budget remains a major concern. And that too must have an impact upon us here, as we recognize that about 40% of our tourists in Barbados come from the United Kingdom. The US, of course, is fully into election mode, and I hope some of you have been taking in the debates involving the Republicans and the other conventions, Republicans and the Democrats convention. It is not politically correct for me to publicly express an opinion one way or the other in terms of the US election, of which one will benefit Barbados the most. But I certainly will not be losing sleep if Obama wins again. Romney all the best in his endeavors. Here in the Caribbean, I think we recognize that all of the Caribbean economies are under immense economic and political pressure. Jamaica, after the challenges, Grenada, I was down there recently and was quite surprised. Not that I had to go there to recognize it, but I guess once you're in the island, you start to pay more attention to matters. I believe their unemployment rate is about 30% in Grenada, which is very scary. I mean, ours in Barbados is about 11–12%. And it's very scary to recognize that one of our neighboring islands to have such a high unemployment rate, which, when fueled with their political challenges, really places that particular economy and society in a very, very precarious position. Likewise, in St. Lucia, I believe the unemployment rate in St. Lucia is in excess of 20%. And you always query the official versus the unofficial rates. But certainly these do have an impact upon us here in Barbados and as a trading partner to some of these islands. I know Trinidad recently, last week, a few days ago, the Minister of Finance, I believe it was, indicated that Trinidad will not be providing the level of financial support to Caribbean islands as they have in the past. Now, we in Barbados have not been dependent on that. But certainly that is an indication that Trinidad itself is having some major economic challenges as they too seek to restructure their economy in and around an oil-based industry there. Here in Barbados, as I said earlier, we continue as a government and as a political party to face these challenges and to find sustainable solutions. Let me say that as we go into an election mode, or rather I think we are in election mode, that we really now have to do something that I believe my party, our party, have not done well over the last 4.5 years. And it is important that we be very critical of ourselves from time to time, not sit back and believe our own propaganda, our own views, and sometimes to step back and listen to others. I'm satisfied that as a government, as a political party, we have done very well, particularly when we operate in the belief that Barbados is not just an economy, it's a society. We have provided more housing solutions in 4 years than when after in Barbados they provided in 14 years. We have been able to keep our education system intact. We certainly, as school term starts tomorrow, and I'm not hearing of one school that is delayed in reopening, which was very much the norm under the former government. We look at the healthcare system, and I am sometimes very cautious because as minister, I must not be seen to be blowing my own trumpet in any way, shape, or fashion. But I believe that if I was not Donville Inniss, I would say that our healthcare system has also been drastically improved. Law and order is still being very much well maintained in this society. Although we have control. Because in the other government, it is slack. Well, real slack. Thank you for saying that, Judy.
Slack party, slack country.
You know, there's still many aspects of our society and economy that are functioning well. We continue to address the challenges that confront our youth. I mean, we have been criticized for summer camp programs, for example, but at least about 9,000 young Barbadians are in a structured and safe environment during the summer holidays. Now, before, certainly as a youngster growing up, we had grandmothers around to help us when we were on vacation, or mothers who didn't work. Society has changed drastically today, where we were in a situation where many young people were being left unattended and also provided during the school holidays. And we took a decision as a government to provide a program to cater to that particular challenge in this society. Our road infrastructure continues to be reasonably well maintained. There are those who complain about the roads need to be done, resurface, etc. We're mindful of those issues, but generally speaking, we have pretty much kept the physical infrastructure together. In terms of accommodation of public servants, this is another area that was a major concern. And I had this chat with one after a few months ago. When I said to him, you know, you were Minister of Finance and Minister responsible for the civil service. You always boast about the robustness and the growth and health of the economy and the government finances during your 10 years Prime Minister. But yet still public servants have the worst physical conditions under which to work. And this government now, faced with economic challenges, we've still been creative enough to find solutions whereby public servants, generally speaking, can now tell you that they have far superior working environment than what existed between 1994 and 2007. Just right here in Warren, for example, there are two new government buildings that I believe have already started to be occupied, providing decent accommodation for these public officers across the board. So we really have done reasonably well as a government, because we're still steadfast in our belief that Barbados is not just an economy, it's a society. But these things don't come easy.
Don't forget drainage.
Oh yes,
so we had flooding in Barbados over the last.
We haven't had major flooding for a while, that is true. But I started by saying that there's some things that we have not done right. One thing that comes to mind right away is communication. All of us as party members, all of us as ministers, can sit among ourselves and be full of praise for all the good things that we have done. But I don't think that as a political party and as a government, we have had effective public relations and an effective communication strategy. You're welcome, Mr. McKinney. I admire the Barbados Party on that score. The Barbados Party is an electioneering machine. So whatever they do, whatever they tidbit they do, they have a way of making everybody believe that it's the best thing that they've done, that has been done in the world since the creation of slavery. And the truth of the matter is that perhaps as a government, perhaps as a political party, we have operated on the belief that what we do for the people of Barbados, and we should do it without any fanfare and any song and dance. But as you go around constituency after constituency and listen to those who may not be members of the party, the average Barbadian out there, you start to get a little concerned when they say to you that, you know, we can't really point out all the good that we claim to have done. And tell me that we have not had an effective and sustained communication strategy and program over the last 4.5 years. And I think as a political party, it is something that we have to get right and get right over the next couple of weeks. We cannot lose the public relations battle. I believe that every minister, every MP must stand and let their voices be heard about the good things that they have done. You can clap for that once again, glass over. Every ministry come here, Mariah, we're about to talk about yes, every minister, every parliamentary representative, every candidate must start talking about the things that we have done and be proud of it. Let me tell you a few things about the health sector. Now, I get accused of being friends with people like Roy Morris, on the Barbados today. I will not point him out to you. Janelle Riley from the Advocate. And my friends in the nation other media houses around Barbados. And hence perhaps being in public domain a little bit too much. But the truth of the matter is that we must recognize that we are not here to serve ourselves. We're here to serve the country, and we have to keep the public informed as to the challenges that we've been facing, the options available to us, and decisions that we are taking and why we think they're the best decisions. At the end of the day, you cannot expect everybody to be pleased. I don't expect that every time I open a newspaper, whether it be the electronic one or the one phone in the driveway on mornings, I don't expect every time I turn on the radio and listen to Barbados that somebody is singing my praises. That's the reality of political life. But we must not be daunted as politicians in the Democratic Party from any criticism. As a matter of fact, we must stand up and start to fight back and let the public know what we've been doing. I'm going to wrap up quickly so that we can entertain a few discussions. But certainly the health sector. That is one ministry and one sector in this country that has never been given all the money that it thinks it should get. Successive governments have tried their best, I believe, to provide adequate financial resources. I came into that ministry about 4 years ago, recognizing, of course, many challenges. Some took me by surprise, I must say, when I looked at the gravity challenges. But we didn't throw our hands in the air as a government and said there's nothing we can do. We started to think outside of the box and find ways of building a more sustainable healthcare system. And one of the first things we've done, recognizing that Barbados is indeed a society, collection of individuals and families, is to shift the focus onto the preventative side of healthcare. without losing momentum on the curative side. For example, that's why yesterday evening at Browns Beach, we had over 1,200 Barbadians there in a national exercise program from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 7 o'clock. Exercising, dancing, doing whatever, but having fun and recognizing, getting the message across that Barbadians need to take better care of themselves. I want to thank Margaret Clinton Hunt and her group for exercising and trying their utmost best to gyrate and we have certainly taken that further afield with the National Chronic Non-Communicable Disease Commission and the work that they've been doing to sensitize Barbadians on better lifestyle as well. On the physical plant side, of course, we continue to work in the polyclinic system to make necessary upgrades and to shift the focus back onto the polyclinic system. I mean, only this week at an address I gave, I believe, I think at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where we were giving awards to urgent care trainees, the point was made that we have to put more resources and emphasis on the primary care side. There's still too many Barbadians going to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital to have their health concerns addressed that ought to have been addressed at the primary care level. And I believe, Inga, we have a seat in here for you, no? Just come, there's one up front in.
If the persons there could just come in. You want that?
We have a seat up front. I want to welcome Inga Sandford, the daughter of the Lord Joseph Sandford.
If you're saying that, I could just go up to the cross.
You don't need to answer her parents, so don't need to follow more recently than she did. But we certainly recognize that there are more individuals, there are many individuals attending the Queen Elizabeth Hospital as a result of a level of inefficiency in the primary care level. So there are those who may need diagnostic services done. And I cited the example, I say it again, who will go to a polyclinic, they're told you need an X-ray or CAT scan, and then you have to leave, take the next day off from work, go to the QH and make an appointment, and then perhaps go back a few weeks later to get it done, and then wait a few weeks for the results. Now that is a lot of time that individual is spending away from work. It must be very costly to the healthcare system. And also, you must reflect on the possibility of adverse incidents as a result of delays in getting that job done. In my own view, and we've asked the Ministry of Health to implement it as a matter of urgency, is to bring those diagnostic services closer to the polyclinic system. So if you go to a doctor in the polyclinic system and you need an X-ray or CAT scan, we must have a mechanism whereby you can get that done the same day as possible or the next day. People ask me, well, is this going to cost more? Now, I am perhaps considered in some quarters to be rather frugal and always asking how we can cut costs and stop wasting money, etc. But when it comes to provision of diagnostic service at the primary care level, I say that it is already costing people to get done. The QA is in the QH budget, the QH is doing it. But the manner in which it's being done makes the unit cost very, very high, as opposed to bringing the service closer to the patient at the primary care level. We can get it done. It also helps us to further relieving the pressure of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. I mean, I go to accident emergency every now and then, and you see people who are waiting sometimes for long hours. Some not realizing that we do have emergency services or urgent care services that can be provided at fast-track units in our polyclinic system. Barbados Polyclinic, Morrisburg in the north, and Winston Scott Polyclinic. But Barbadians have a belief that you don't get this top-notch care unless you're at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And I always remind people, the doctors at the QEH went to the same medical schools as the one at the primary care level, except for those who may be specialists in some areas. We've also announced that we need to bring some of these specialist services closer to the primary care level, so we're going to see an increase in number of specialist clinics at the primary care level. And I know one that is very dear to the hearts of some of us is psychiatric services. When I joined the ministry, I mean, I heard the recommendation. A lot of the things that you see being done in ministry are not Donville Inniss idea. Say some ideas that have been around the ministry for a long time. But Jerome Walker was too busy minding other people's business and not willing to roll up his sleeve or whatever garments he wear and do the things that need to be done. So when you had officers in the Ministry of Health who had good ideas based on their years of experience, I as minister was prepared to listen. I didn't come to a ministry believing that I know it all. I came with a very open mind. I was prepared to listen to people like Terence Spring, who has many years experience in hospital administration and psychiatric services, and the staff therein. And we have provided, I believe, 18 community mental health nurses positions so that those nurses trained in mental health can work in the community and not feel that they have to be in the confines of psychiatric hospital or to get a promotion or an appointment. I know that recently the psychiatric hospital took on 2 additional psychiatrists and they have been assigned at the polyclinic level, where now they're actually, the mental health patients out there in the community are getting that high level of professionalism in their own home domain, as opposed to having to trek the psychiatric hospital. And this is translated now to a reduction in the number of inpatients at the psychiatric hospital, and a better return on the investment that you, the taxpayers, put in mental health services around here. We've done the reforms necessary in the Barbados drug service in order to make it sustainable. That too has been knocked around and been bandied about and recommended since the 90s. But every minister, every politician was concerned about political consequences. And my view is, yes, there are political consequences to whatever we do as ministers. But we also have a duty as managers and leaders to ensure that the taxpayers' dollars are spent as wisely as possible, and whatever system we provide in the public service should be done in a sustainable manner. So that's some of the decisions we took. Generally speaking, as we look towards the future, from my view, going into an election, is that both parties will speak with a strong sense of purpose and energy about the things that we've all done over the last 10, 15, 50 years. And I don't need to rehash those. But I also believe, just as important, the debate in this upcoming election season must be about the future as much as it has been about the past. My children, who are 16 and 10, they are very much concerned about their future. I can tell them about all the things we've done in terms of free education, free healthcare, the things we've done to uplift society, create a middle class, etc. And that may provide a foundation and help them to think a certain way. But of equal importance, they want to know what the future holds for them. And that becomes very important, particularly in today's age when we have major economic and financial challenges in this society, where there has been statistically evidence of unemployment rate in 11.5%, unemployment challenges, the ability of families to provide for many services that they need. I answer that by saying that one of the things that we must do going forward is to seriously restructure the public service in Barbados. When Sir Lloyd and the Democratic Party in the early 90s took decisions to restructure the public service, and in some instances they have to reduce the size of the public service, I thought it was the right thing to do. We started to have a leaner and meaner public service. When after the Barbados Party came in with a level of intellectual laziness, and despite so-called economic growth and financial success, increased the public service, I believe, by almost 25%, pushing it back up to about 28,000 people. I've heard Mr. Arthur saying recently that if he gets back the government, he will fire certain people in the public service. You know, you like to call names and point individuals and say you can fire this by urban, this by rural. You know, he fired the foreheads at the Community Hospital, and then that institution went downhill since then. But he's also now talking about laying off a whole set of public servants. In these trying times, we have taken a position as a government that we will not reduce the public service. And I fully support that. However, as we restructure this economy and look towards the future, it's my view that Barbados must have a leaner and more efficient public service than what currently exists. Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to send home thousands of public officers. Let me make that abundantly clear, because I don't want my former friend Roy Morris to write the more that is to fire public servants. Let me get that clear. As this economy is restructured and diversified and there's an expansion of the private sector, we will see a reduction in numbers in the public service. So that is going to happen by a process of attrition, as well as by a process of expanding the private sector to accommodate those youngsters in particular who will be coming out the job market in the next 3, 4, 5 years or whatever. We also have to have a better system of administration within the public service. We have very, very bright individuals in public service. I think Barbados' public service is one of the best we have in the Western Hemisphere in terms of quality of skills. But I'm always concerned about the systems with which those qualified individuals have to function in. It's amazing the length of time it takes a piece of correspondence coming in the ministry to get from a registry to a minister's desk for urgent attention. That has to change. It's amazing the length of time it takes to send files even internally around ministries. Every day I get complaints in my ministry about officers, temporary officers in particular, who have not been paid and have not been paid for a while. It is not something that I take any pleasure in hearing, because I believe that once you work, you ought to be paid and ought to be paid on time. And public officers, temporary officers who have not been paid, it's not a function of government not having money to pay them. But when you recognize that at your department, which may be of course on central ministry, somebody has to do paperwork, then to send that to the ministry, central office, central personnel or finance department to input, then it has to go across to PAD or civil service ministry or seller to get an authority, and then to come back to the main ministry, then to go down to the department. I mean, these are, you know, you're really talking here about weeks sometimes for the paperwork to be processed. And meanwhile, those individuals are still coming to work every day, because they know that if they miss one day, they may be sent home, and they may miss a chance to get a follow-up next time there's a temporary position available. But for me, it means that those individuals have a challenge in feeding their families and paying their bills. The postman doesn't stop delivering your bills because you have not been paid on time in the public service. It's still coming. And it's these matters that we have to address as we seek to build a more efficient public service across Barbados. So I cite that example because I know it is one that is burning and rearing its ugly head from time to time. There is a senior amenity within the government that is currently looking at the root cause or causes of this particular phenomenon and to address it. So it is nothing new. It's been going on for many, many years. But saying that to someone who is not being paid is no comfort. So we have to address that quickly in there. The process of appointment within the public service. You know, I ask myself sometimes if the public service in Barbados has not become too centralized. As a result now, you have permanent secretaries and key departmental heads who in many respects don't have a lot of the authority that over their own ministries that people may think they do. You know, and these are matters that we have to put on the front burner and addressed. So that's one issue I believe we have to work collectively on as we look towards a brighter future of Barbados. How do we make the public service more efficient? How do we make an application for residential development with our country planning a more timely process in the eyes of developers? It doesn't mean that because it takes a year or 2 years to get an answer, that the quality of the decision is any better than had it taken 3 or 4 weeks. And there's that belief around this society that the longer things take to get done, the better the outcome is. That is not true. So it's these matters that we have to address, because we have to recognize that an inefficient public service results in a very costly private sector as well, because somebody has to pay the price of a high level of inefficiency. But I want to reiterate my point. I'm not criticizing public officers. It's a system within which they have to function. We need to embrace technology more within the public service, for example. We shuffle paper all over the place, files go missing, without being cognizant of the impact that has upon the life of some individual out there. So you make an application for a license, which you need in order to open your business or maintain your business, and somebody says to you, well, I can't find your file. So make the application again and wait another 6 months to get an answer. These things are not acceptable or must not become the norm in this society today. We also will continue to look towards further diversification in the Barbados economy. Yes, tourism is in many ways important. I feel very passionate about international business and financial services, and I think that there's a lot more we can do in that area. There are untapped markets that we need to venture into. We need to really seize the opportunities available to us through double taxation agreement, tax information exchange agreement, and other legal instruments to fuse that with a more aggressive marketing strategy to generate business. But also means that for those who are currently in Barbados doing business, that they must have a greater level of efficiency from those government departments that they come into contact with. So when an international company applies for a particular license or particular regulation to be pronounced upon, they should not be waiting 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get a response. That means business may be lost. And I always say to public officers, you get your money in your bank account on the 25th day of the month. But your failure to act in a timely fashion may mean that another 10 or 12 individuals out there ain't getting paid because you have not processed an application in time. And there are these deficiencies in the system, not individuals necessarily, but in deficiencies and inefficiencies in the system that we have to address. As we look towards the future, it's my own view that we have in Barbados to really inculcate a greater level of entrepreneurship in our education system. It's not enough to teach individuals to read and write and to think logically. We need to really start creating more entrepreneurs in this country. We need to be able to teach our young people about taking risks, about various aspects of business. Because you are studying for a degree in English, it doesn't mean that you must not come out of university having done some course in entrepreneurship. Barbados is only 166 square miles. We need to really be punching above our weight consistently and creating bright minds and individuals who are going to go there and play their role in a global environment. So when we produce graduates with degrees in biochemistry, for example, how do we fuse that knowledge with research capabilities in society that they can then create some new process or product that can earn this country millions of dollars in foreign exchange and jobs? But these are things, but we tend to think only in terms of just producing a graduate with a degree. We need to punch up to the next level where we say, well, yes, you've been well trained at the polytechnic, I almost said polytechnic, polytechnic, university, wherever. And we need now for you to come out not just with that academic knowledge, but also the ability to go there and create some kind of entrepreneur activity to go there. And that, of course, must be fused with availability of adequate financing in Barbados. The government has created some financial entities, but I dare say that banks in Barbados perhaps can do a little bit more. When I look at the balance sheet and the profit and loss statements or the financial statements of commercial banks in Barbados, and look at the challenges that confront many businesses and families in Barbados today, I see a great disconnect. We are still paying 7-8% interest rate in this country for some financing programs. That another jurisdiction you may pay 2 or 3% interest. And these things become a challenge to Barbadians as they seek to start to own more. I'm also concerned, I must say this quite candidly, about what I'm seeing in this Barbadian society in terms of the ownership of some Barbadian businesses. And that bothers me immensely, because with all the education that we've had and all the systems we've put in place, I'm a little bit concerned at this juncture that ownership of some of our key industries and businesses are beginning to reside elsewhere. And that will have an impact upon the future of this society. But until we Barbadians stop mumbling and complaining to ourselves and in our homes and start getting up and working together as a people, these things will continue to happen. We are still very jealous of one another, Black Barbadians every day curse and quarrel about white Bajans owning this and that. But if I go tomorrow open a business, the same blacks can complain that I'm doing too good, or you want to get too rich. You don't do it when you talk about others.
Or you didn't decide that illegal.
Or you must be thieving or doing something else. There's room in this society for all of us, regardless of the color of our skin, our religion, or our socioeconomic background, to do better. I think collectively as a society we can do much better than we've been doing in the past.